Hello and welcome to Sip Sip Hooray, a podcast centered on the stories behind the label of well-known wines and some new discoveries too. The importance of story is the focus of our show today, a California winery that believes in the power of wine to tell a story. Not just any stories, but parables, stories that stick with you and teach you, giving insight into the human experience and illuminating universal truths. Parable Wines is founded on the idea that sipping a glass of wine with friends or family offers insight into our lives and relationships, and it sometimes even helps us share our feelings with one another. The story of Parable Winery also feels epic because Parable came out of the ashes of the 2020 glass fire in the Napa Valley, believing in the power of a burned vineyard to rise again. We are delighted to have our first father-son duo on the podcast today. They are Fred and Trey Eppright, and we look forward to hearing their story today. We are the two Marys who like to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm Mary Babbitt.
I'm Mary Orland. Owning a winery is a dream many people have. So to go on and realize that dream, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. What does it take to really start a winery, though? Our guests today, Fred and Trey Eppright, are the proprietors of the new Napa Winery, Parable Vineyards, except it's not exactly new. The Epprights bought the former Dutch Henry Winery in Calistoga in Napa Valley. It's one of the wineries that suffered severe damage during the September 2020 glass fire. The challenge ahead, rebuilding and establishing a new wine brand. You have to ask, did they know what they were getting into? Fred Eppright is a successful commercial real estate businessman in Austin, Texas. His son Trey managed to convince him to invest in this winery project. Trey must have been very persuasive. I'm pretty sure my father wouldn't have been game. But now before you think, it's true. Now, before you think, who needs another rich, white family vanity project in wine country? And we certainly had that thought. Taking on a winery damaged by wildfires is no easy or inexpensive task. We'll get into some of the nitty-gritty on the costs, the challenges, and the triumphs the Epprights encountered while giving Dutch Henry Winery a new lease on life as Parable Vineyards. Trey and Fred, welcome to Sip Sip Hooray.
Thank you very much.
We are really happy to have a father-son duo with us today. Trey, you're in Napa currently, and Fred, you're in Austin?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Well, thanks both of you for joining us. And I got to ask how a couple of Texans ended up in the California wine world.
Well, we're definitely not the first.
No, you're not. That's true.
It's a passion that I've had for a very long time, and it was my father who got me into drinking wine many years ago. And we were in 2021 in the real estate industry. It was very, very competitive in Austin, and we're exploring different options. And I just had I guess it's a crazy idea to be like, well, how about I go look in Napa for some a property, and maybe we could get into the wine business. So that's a much condensed version of it.
We were working on another deal, a friend of Trey's, and it was another label, and we thought it would be a great idea if we could combine the two. But the other half of this thing didn't happen, and so we already had the Dutch Henry site. So we had to make something out of something. So off we go on the journey of the wine business.
I love that.
It wasn't our intent. It was not our intent to start our own brand.
I gotcha.
When we first got it under contract, facing tax consequences or possibly starting your own brand, we were like, well, let's just go start our own brand.
Let's do it.
Well, I think, that raises a good topic, is that sometimes when you first approach buying a property or a business, you have one plan, and then that doesn't always pan out, because Trey, I understand that you had actually approached the owners of Dutch Henry back before the fires even happened, that their property was for sale before the fires.
Yeah, that is correct. That
And
was with a different group, and I was going to be a very minor owner, 2 or 3%. And so yeah, I had looked at this back in 2018. I assumed that it had already sold, and somebody else was doing something with it. So when I came back to look at properties in Napa, and my first phone call, I found out that it was still for sale, and they would probably be willing to take a fraction of what they originally wanted, years ago, because they got insurance money, of course, and all of that, with the winery burning down. And I said, okay, well, let me make a phone call and see if that is in fact the case, because they hadn't changed their price online or anything to reflect the damage from the fire. And so, of course, sure, not a lot of people were interested in, for that time after the fire at that price that they had originally listed. So yeah, I made a phone call, and the rest was kind of history.
That's so fascinating, because you'd already looked at it, you already liked it, but now when you're looking at it again, your vineyards burn, the wineries burn. How daunting was that to say, okay, like, was it this notion that, well, lightning's not going to strike twice, I'm going to be okay? We've already had this devastating fire, and now we're good, or what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've started several other operating companies, and so it wasn't worrisome to do it. You just kind of figure it out as you go. That's always kind of been my theory.
I love it.
We've learned a lot of lessons in the last 3.5 years.
I bet.
We've learned a lot. It's been an education.
I call it the stupid tax.
So
But you're still speaking to each other.
So just to kind of give our listeners an idea of what you were getting into financially, give us a ballpark figure of the investment to purchase this property. Were we talking 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures?
It was, well, it's what we paid for Dutch Henry's public knowledge. It's 6.2 Trey.
I think it was six flat.
6 flat. Okay, we paid $6 million for it.
But then now you guys have this property you've got to rebuild, right? So
right.
How do you go about figuring out what has to be done? What's the priority to get it done, and how much is it going to cost you?
What needed to be done was pretty obvious from a physical standpoint. We had rebuild what was burned.
And
we put budgets together, and of course, not knowing much about it, our budgets were completely erroneous. So, I mean, I don't know how else to answer that question. It was just kind of find a problem, get over that hurdle. Next problem, get over that hurdle. Next problem, get over that hurdle.
So so let's just be clear with our listeners. So the tasting room completely burned down.
Yes.
The winery completely burned down. And
Yes.
and vineyards burn?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So
But the cave survived, yes?
Correct. The
Which
cave
is
in the
awesome.
house.
Oh, okay.
but there must
All
have been
right.
smoke. But you must have had smoke damage to contend with there too, correct?
No,
not really.
No, that's good. That's good.
Pretty weird.
Yeah.
Why that house didn't burn down? It's an old wooden frame, wooden siding house. Why that house was still standing is a mystery.
Isn't that's how fire is, though? It just doesn't make any sense.
It is.
Well, tell me this. So then you had to go about, was your first priority, like, we need to get some vines in the ground, or we need...
That was a quick priority, which we did in the spring of 20. Well, we planted it the first time we really could, is the spring of 22.
And tell me this, is having had that fire come through, did that impact your soils in a positive or negative way? Did you have to move soil out, or was it like, actually this?
No, totally fine. Like, there was nothing wrong with the soil whatsoever. If anything, yes, ash can be good for soil. I mean, especially before it gets to ash in the charcoal form. I mean, we still add biochar to our soil, and we'll still add that every year. And a lot of vineyards add biochar. which is just crushed up powderized charcoal. It makes even charcoal at a very fine powder. If you look under a microscope, it's got a bunch of tiny little holes in them, each little grain.
Yeah.
And each of those tiny little holes are a really good place for microorganisms to live and breathe and to do their thing. So we're an organic, and luckily our vineyard was farmed organic for 28 years before we bought it. It was one of the older organic vineyards in Napa.
Wow.
Back when people started doing that. So, now it's been farmed organically for over 30 years now. And so, we're keeping that up and keeping that going. Using the same farmer that farmed it for the 28 years before we bought it, which is Mark Nealon's son. And he does a very good job, and we're very happy with it.
And to also give us an idea, there's a lot of things that are involved in replanting. I guess you have to amend the soils. And then you have to purchase rootstock and whatever variety you're grafting onto that rootstock. Then there's
Correct.
the posts and trellises. So can you give us an idea of what all that it's 2.5 acres? I understand you replanted, what all that might add up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we did it, we did a trellis system called Elkhorn, which is kind of like Geneva double cross. Basically, it's a lyre system where a lot of people are very used to straight rows and all the shoots get tucked vertically. So our shoots kind of come out at a 45-degree angle and then hit a catch wire and then flop over. So our fruit will be a little more shaded. A lot of the newer vineyards planted in Napa are adding some shade component to the fruit. It's a little more expensive to put in, but your fruit can hang through heat waves a lot better as we've been having, hotter and hotter years. That's been the kind of the trend. So, cost wise, we're looking at about $60,000 an acre. And we used 1103 Ps for our bud wood, and then we let that sit for a year. And I went and collected bud wood we got a good portion of it from Graham McDonald over there in Tokelon, the McDonald family vineyard over there. And then also from Spotswood, and Spotswood, we have the Spotswood clone, which is the original Martha's Vineyard clone, which is really cool because they replanted Martha's Vineyard in 93 or 94. And so before that, Spotswood got some of that budwood and put it in their vineyard to make as their own. And then they also have Isley budwood over there as well. And so I collected some of the original Isley budwood from them as well. So we have about half of it from McDonald, and then a quarter from Spotswood and a quarter from Isley. So we're really happy to have those.
Yeah, that's quite
awesome.
Excellent sourcing. I mean, those vineyards are impeccable.
Right. And kind of, for me, it brings up the question, how welcoming or not have you found the folks in Napa Valley as newcomers on the scene-ish? I know you've been there a few years now. It's 2025. But did you find that these established wine people had room to welcome you in?
Absolutely. Pretty much everyone, barring one person, has been very, very welcoming, very loving, very just like, let me know how I can help you. Just what do you need? How can I help? And so I'd say 99% is that way. Like I said, there's one person who, I don't know if I can name names on here, but
no,
don't need to. But there's always one person, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that had a bunch of budwood that an employee who was there put their budwood program together, who was a friend of mine. And when she went and asked her old boss to collect some budwood, her boss was like, I don't know who that is. I'm not giving them any of our budwood. But then I also had people like Graham McDonald be like, hey, if you want to go get it, we'll just go in there at night and grab it. Because, he's like, it's just budwood. Everybody should share it. It's like, hey, Trey, do you have that extra budwood that you collected? I forgot to collect mine this year. And I was like, yep, I sure do. Here you go. have some back. And he's like, man, that's great. So made his life a lot easier. And he's like, I like to give my budwood to everyone I can, because if I ever lose my vineyard for whatever reason, there's healthy budwood. He's like, because yours might be healthy now, but in 5 years, we all might get a virus. So my goal is to have as many vineyards around Napa Valley with my home budwood in it. So I always know, no matter what happens to my vineyard, I'm safe. I can get it back.
True. Share and share alike. I like it.
Yeah.
So you've replanted the vineyard. So that was in 2021. So when do we expect to get your first really productive?
Maybe
crop?
we'll get hopefully a small crop this year. We had some fruit last year which we dropped just to make sure the vines stayed as healthy as possible and grew as much roots as they could. But we'll see with this vintage. I'm hoping we get maybe a ton combined this vintage and just make like a test batch with it. Just see where it's going, see what kind of quality we're working with. It's probably it won't go into any wine this year probably, but next year we expect to have our first like grapes pulled off that we can make wine out of.
And so the next project, after you got the vineyard replanted, what's the next project?
We've been working, getting a permit, which has been that's been the most frustrating part of this whole projort. And
we're not at all surprised. That is that's an old story in the Napa Valley. They are tough on that stuff.
Well, there's a difference in tough and being mean.
So they're being mean.
One could say that. I mean, from our point of view, yes. I'm sure from their point of view, no.
No.
But it costs every delay costs you guys money. And and I don't know that people in the permitting world ever look at it like that. I don't think they ever see the other side. But my husband's in the restaurant business. And so I know when he's waiting on permits, how much it can cost him and how unfair it is, because he has no power on it. He's waiting.
Well, to put it to you this way, when we bought it, we thought the process was a 90-day process. And now we're 3.5 years into it, and it's still going on.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah. They have been as hard and unfair as any municipality we've ever worked with in the real estate company and that's putting it lightly.
Wow. And you're in the business, so that's saying a lot.
Yeah, we're in the development business. I mean, Fred has worked with many more municipalities than I have, but I've worked with 25, 30. Fred's probably worked with 50 or 60. And there's no comparison to anything that I've ever worked with to Napa County. Just not using their own laws on the book or interpreting them differently than they interpreted it 2 years ago. Going against everything that's common sense, like in traffic rules, like if you name it, they're probably backwards on it. And so, even taking our permit, which, we had a very credible guy who worked at the county in the 80s and wrote memos about how these old PWDO wineries work. That's who we hired to review our permit. And he told us what our permit was. And then we go and the county's like, that's not what your permit is. And it's like, well, no, I mean, none of y'all were even around in the 80s. So I mean, it's as bad as it can get.
I've developed all over, and Austin is considered very tough. It's the toughest in the Southwest. But like we were telling somebody yesterday or 2 days ago in California, the difference is there's a rule book, and we don't want you to do this, but here are the hurdles. They seem to move the goalpost pretty abandonedly.
Yeah. How frustrating. And
go ahead.
And so you're waiting on permits to be able to do things to bring your business up to operations. 3.5 years later, you can't do what you planned to 3.5 years ago, right?
Correct.
And at a time when the climate is changing in the wine world, and it makes one wonder if the powers that be in the Napa Valley aren't recognizing that, gee, we probably need to make things a little friendlier for the business community to help them, make ends meet and keep this engine running, right?
I don't think they see it. I don't think they see it that way. I was telling our lawyer, it's more of an ideology, not. Now here, they use environmentalism, but most of the people are true environmentalists.
Mhm.
And I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But if the ideology is we just don't want businesses, then that's a whole different level.
Totally. Wow.
It seems like their
Yeah.
actions are saying that, doesn't it?
And Napa has been, I mean, as far as anti-friendly to small business, they've seeming to be anti-friendly to small business for at least 50 years. I think it was about 50 years ago when the big growers, they were tired of these little growers popping up and people subdividing their land and selling it, and then like little guys growing 5 acres, 10 acres, 15 acres, whatever it was. And so back then in the late 60s, early 70s, Napa County made a law where you can't subdivide property anymore. Like, and again, that's just to protect the big growers that had hundreds of acres. So they've been doing things anti to small business since then. And I think that's kind of the business climate we got caught up in, is that there is big money in Napa, right? Gallows, the Constellations, and all of them. Not saying any individual one is doing that, but it does seem like if you have a ton of money, if you have hundreds of millions of dollars invested in Napa, you can get something to the county in a matter of days. And they are getting sued for that, and that has come to light that there's been
Right.
tons of how many people got subpoenaed last year,
Yeah.
and all of that. So so we got caught up in something that we had no idea about, and it seems we got caught in that.
But hopefully we're almost at the end of it.
Yeah, we hope so too for you.
It isn't impossible, but it is that anti-business climate that if you don't have the wherewithal, and we are by no means in the financial means of most of the people out there, where this is a hobby, or it's buying a winery is like a painting. It's something they want to own, and it's pretty.
Right.
And this is a business model. It's not. So for someone who's trying to do it in a business model, it is difficult. But if you didn't have access to some sources, they could choke you out.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable.
It's really awful to hear.
If your husband's in the restaurant business, it's the same thing.
Yeah, he struggles all the time, and he's in different towns, so every town is different. And he's like, if they could just make these rules uniform city to city in California, I know I'd have a playing field I can deal with, but it changes every time. Frustrating, but
so in the meantime, you all are making wine. Obviously, you've released some wines. So let's talk about how that's working. You have to purchase fruit now, and you have to have it made somewhere else, and there's got to be costs involved with that. So can you give us kind of a run through of that and approximate costs of what that is running you?
Yeah, you could say on average, by the time you're getting done making red wine in a custom crush, you're about $6,000 a ton to make red wine in a custom crush per ton, which is, say 55 to 60 cases per ton. You can, back that into the bottle. And then for winemaking fees, it's about equal. Now, if we were to make more, those costs could go down because we're on like a flat fee no matter what we produce with our consulting winemaker. But right now at our current production, it's around $6,000 a ton for winemaking fees on top of the custom crush. And that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard across the valley.
Okay.
We're just at that breaking point right now where we're making just about the right amount of wine where it's worth going to the just flat rate fee instead of a tonnage based fee. But so again, if we were to make a little more wine, the winemaking numbers would start going down from this point. But with not having a tasting room and being delayed on that, has been really our hesitation to ramp up our production anymore. Because,
Mhm.
now we're at that kind of crux where we have wine to sell now. We should have been open by now, like with everything built and done according to our original plan. And so now we're just, adjusting all that. But yeah, it's about $12,000 a ton for winemaking and custom crush fees.
Okay.
And then our fruit ranges from about $4,000 a ton up to about $40,000 a ton is our, fruit range.
Well, you've
40,000.
chosen some really great
Yeah.
fruit. I mean, you've
Wow.
not
Right.
gone with a lower quality. You are at some of the
No.
best stuff out
No.
there.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, you are correct.
We
Yeah,
we
that-
haven't
that-
we haven't changed the focus. It's just taken longer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that Beckstoffer fruit is probably one of your more expensive purchases.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. That's the one. When I was saying that price, that's where
Yeah.
that would go.
Yeah.
Well,
And
tell
again,
us about
that's no secret.
tell us about the decision to go with a higher end fruit, creating kind of a premium quality wine. That was
Yeah.
probably a calculation you guys had to make as you embarked on this thing. What kind of winery do we want to be?
Yeah. Well, looking at the market and, this is my brother, myself, and my father kind of sitting down. And I was like, what do we want to do? And it's like, and most people will tell you this, make wines that you want to drink.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the wisdom that everybody in this business will tell a newcomer coming into this business. And I've heard that from everyone. I know Brett has as well. It's like, make the wine you want to drink. It's like, okay, well, what do we all like? Luckily, we all have a very similar palate. We just like really, really good unadulterated wine. Like let the grapes speak for themselves. And so,
Mhm.
I'm very lucky to have a brother and a father that we're all on that same page. Like we're gonna do single vineyard. We're going to buy the best grapes we can, and we're gonna let those grapes speak for themselves. And that's that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Well-
want to look back 10 years and go, we did it right.
Yes.
We didn't cut any corners. We didn't let an ego get in the way. We just want somebody to say, they did it right.
Yeah.
Well, having been fortunate enough to taste one of your Chardonnays and the Cabernet, both incredible wines, just beautifully made, really well balanced, truly a great wine.
Well, thank you for
Thank
saying
you.
that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Really
they're
nice stuff.
lovely. The Ritchie vineyard for the Chardonnay is just gorgeous. The acidity on that, the minerality is just fantastic.
Yeah, no, it can't. Richie has obviously an amazing vineyard, and Fred and I and my brother were just at his vineyard just a few days ago. We were out over there visiting with Kent, and he does a great job. Has wonderful soils and been farming it since planted in the late 70s, and he took over in the early 80s. And yeah, we're very fortunate to be in there and getting some grapes from there. And I think we make it, we make that in concrete. I don't know of another Ritchie wine that is made in 100% concrete and aged in concrete.
Yeah, that's right. I was impressed when I read that because I've had wines that are fermented in concrete or maybe aged, but not both.
Yeah, so we keep it on the lees for a long time. That definitely gives that texture and some of those flavors you're getting from it. And it's just, we're doing something a little different, but we make 3 different Chardonnays, which is very different for wines in Napa. And, it seemed to have been a big hit doing that. I don't know if that would have been the wise wisdom bestowed on me among a lot of winery Napa owners, because, Chardonnay is kind of not in vogue right now. It seems like Sauvignon Blanc and Cab is what Napa is focusing on. But there's good Chardonnay out there, and hopefully we have 3 very different Chardonnays that express different things, and we don't make a lot of any of them.
Sure. So now, when it comes to the aging, you have a cave that you said didn't get damaged during the fires. So
Correct.
are you taking the wines once you produce them?
We are not we are leaving them. So
You're
with the
leaving them
custom
at-
crush,
Okay.
they still have the employees that do the topping ups, the sulfur ads, and
Mm-hmm.
really monitor the wine the whole time. And if they were up in our cave, we would have to hire staff to do that, and we're just not making enough right now where that makes any financial sense.
Okay.
We just don't have enough barrels.
And Fred,
Yes,
go
Go
ma'am.
ahead,
Mary.
Mary.
I was just going to ask Fred, how often are you out here in California, dipping your toes in the wine world and, checking things
Well,
out?
I'd say every couple of months, Craig.
And so in the meantime, you're running the real estate thing in Austin, the commercial real estate.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're busy. That's a lot to
Real busy. And
Well,
I also do a lot of nonprofit work. So between the 3 full-time jobs.
yes, I read that you are co-founder of a charity that helps children in Haiti. Is that right?
Haiti and Ukraine.
Wonderful.
Well, I mean, the Ukraine thing's been relatively new since the war. I've been involved in Haiti for 12
Well,
years, I guess, maybe.
2011, right?
Yeah.
fantastic. Good for you. I mean, to take on something like that, not just to, throw some money at it, but to be co-founder and actually get in there and
Now we
create
actually
something.
we are actually the U.S. side of Matt and I and Trey's involved too, but we are the U.S. side of a very large Haitian organization. We have a hospital, one of the few working hospitals in the Port-au-Prince area. We've got 263 schools open that have over 29,000 students.
Wow.
And 300 churches.
Wow.
So we spend a lot of time collectively. I'd say here in Austin, Matt and I probably spend a good third of our time working on it.
Wow. This is truly meaningful for you.
Oh
This
yeah. Oh
is
yeah.
purpose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's being the voice of people that don't have a voice is just kind of what is important to me.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And it's not like Fred, we didn't go out and start this. This was kind of dropped in Fred's lap. There was a really, I'm not naming, Fred can name the name he wants. There was they're bad actors in the nonprofit world, and they took all the donors from this system and then just say, hey, we're going to take the donors, we're going to drop this nonprofit, which by footprint size is the largest NGO in Haiti. And somebody approached my dad, and my dad was working with one school and like one church, and we didn't really have the means or like the knowledge to do this, but my dad's never afraid of a challenge. I can say that 100%, 100% confidence is like, and I know it probably wasn't on the top of his list to get involved in, but if there's a bunch of people in need, he's going to be one of the, and if he can help, he's going to do it.
That's very admirable.
love that.
Wow.
And it's probably his attitude of why he got into this winery with me. He's like, well, it's challenging and Trey wants to do it, and let's do it.
Right.
So
somebody said it couldn't be done.
Yeah. There you go.
Let me show you that one.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what it's taking to get Parable up and running. And one of the things, people think about the cost of winemaking and buying grapes and all, but you've got some buildings to have built, to have designed. Can you talk about what goes into that in terms of design, architecture, building costs,
well, you got all of that? We've really kind of been behind the 8 ball because the process that we've been involved in Napa has just been getting the approval to be able to build something. So we're not talking, we haven't even gone through the building permit phase.
Oh my gosh.
This is just what I would call is a site development permit. So we've got preliminary drawings and stuff, but before you drop the hammer with full-blown architectural and engineering for both the tasting room and the winery, you'd like to have, because that's, it's maybe $150,000. So you don't want to spend that unless you know you can actually do it. So we have preliminary stuff. I mean, I've been sitting here looking at the tasting room preliminary drawings this afternoon. Matt and I have been. That's Trey's brother. So we're kind of thinking we're going to get a permit. So we're starting, and Trey's working with a contractor out there for the winery. but we still have to go through the building permit process.
Yeah.
Woo.
Wow. You,
Yeah.
yeah. It's,
We've just been
take,
dealing with use permits.
yeah.
Okay.
You've got to be just so dedicated to this and not to just throw your hands up in the air, though sometimes you probably want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, many times that thought. But again, we're already in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we
Right.
And you
Right.
said your brother is in it too.
Oh yeah,
What's
very much.
very much so.
what's his role?
Finance and all the numbers.
Okay.
It's a very important role. I mean,
Yeah, heck yeah.
I mean, he was the one, that actually came up with the name. And give credit where credit's due, and we were just sitting around. I mean, it's hard to find a trademark, and getting Parable was very lucky.
Oh, it's a
A
great
lot of people had tried to get it. Constellation had tried, Gallo had tried. Everybody had been turned down.
Really?
Because there was a homonym called Parabol was trademarked, and it was a skew of a little Pinot maker in Anderson Valley, Foresight Wines. And so I went out there, and luckily the guy I didn't call or anything, was at his tasting room, and we had a lovely 2.5 hours drinking wine and sharing stories. And I was like, I did kind of have an agenda here. Could I use the word parable? And he was like, I didn't know all those people were turned down. They didn't notice me, but if you want to use it, if I need to, I'll sign off on it.
Oh, that's great. See the
Yeah.
power of just showing up and talking to people. Oh my goodness, that's so
I-
cool.
Yeah.
I would interject that back to one of your original questions was what have the people been like? I will
Yeah.
probably say that some of the nicest people and the most helpful people are in the wine business.
Oh, that's great.
They're really cool.
Yeah, we hear that all the time, that people help each other out. They give advice freely.
I mean,
Equipment.
JCB, I mean, he's one of the biggest wine guys in the valley.
Oh, yeah.
He has called me. I have him on my. I mean, he's in my deal. I talked to him this morning. Anything he can do to help. He is, for the size guy he is. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jean-Charles Boisset is who we're talking about, and he's incredible. And he has done more than anybody I know to bring back some of the once, what's the word I'm looking for?
Heritage brands.
Heritage brands. Thank you. He's really done such great work bringing heritage brands back to life.
Yeah. Or old buildings like Calistoga Depot. I mean, you got to give it to the man. And again, he is so far above us in the wine world, but we've got to know him just through business, and he has been, so helpful.
Matt had to go to New York with John, Charles, and Gina and go to a meeting together. And I mean, they took Matt and just treated him like he was an old friend. I mean, Matt calls me up and goes, "Dad, these people are really great."
Yeah, and they've never even met Matt before, and I had met John Charles. We've had lunch together before. I'd met him a while back he was sitting, and I was with a friend who knows him, and other than that little chat, it's not like we're big friends or anything, but he really has, and Gina, have just been very, very sweet to us and very good people.
That's great. So
that's refreshing to hear.
So that's lovely. And we've talked about all your challenges. What about the successes you're having?
Talking to you is success.
Yeah. We've had really warm reception. I mean, we really, we stand by our wines, and people really like them. So, I'd say a success is, as we set out to make good wine of single vineyard with expression of them, that is looking like we're nailing it. We're nailing that part of the mission statement.
Hooray for that.
And you said, and thanks for saying the word balance. Balance is a word that gets thrown around a lot today in the wine world. And so I do not like to bring it up, but if somebody else brings it up, I'll talk about it. That's kind of our goal. Our goal is to make balanced wines. I like super, in times I like super extractive wines, and I like super lean wines, but it's like, we wanted to make, bridge that And I know a lot of people try, but they usually end up on one side or the other of the spectrum, where it's a balance in this industry is hard to reach, hard to get. And I think we're doing a acceptable job.
My hat's off to you, because I thought the wine we got to taste was absolutely outstanding. So thank you. How can other people find your wine?
I mean, right now,
Just
we're on
website.
We're on an allocation basis right now, so it's just sending an email to the website. We'll get you with an allocation. There's some work we need to do on our website to make that process a little easier, with a little less friction, which we're working on right now.
And is the
So hopefully
allocation because of just the limited production, or are you always
Yeah,
going to?
yeah, I mean, let's say of the Vanguard, we have 36 cases of that, and we have, 90 cases of this or 60 cases of this. It's just we're very, very small
Yeah.
and very low, and we still need we're trying to figure a way. We had a meeting with the county this week, and we got pushed till next month. And hopefully we'll get our tasting permit and be able to start hosting tastings. But we need this wine to last through a tasting season.
Sure.
If we can get to that point.
Yeah.
But we have wine for sale. Don't let anybody get
Yeah.
And doing the allocations for wine lovers, this is an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of a premium winery that's just that's in its infancy, and you've already launched it with a super quality product. So this is I think a cool opportunity for wine lovers to and I just was reading on the website here. It says if you sign up for allocations, you get to go to the unveiling when the tasting room opens. You get to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. We're gonna try to make hopefully our allocation club and a good value for people.
Right.
We have a really cool space. I did a little preliminary party for 22 people, and the kids are just friends, just having friends over for a Christmas party. But now seeing how that looks, and we'll be able to have one of those parties a month once we're all get going, according to our permit. So we hope to have be able to invite our people out and have some good events, as pretty much all these little wineries do. But hopefully we can execute that really, really well for our patrons.
So,
but I've learned from a lot of good people. So
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned lessons learned. Can you give us maybe the biggest lessons you learned, or the biggest piece of advice you would pass on to somebody wanting to start up a winery?
Stop laughing.
What you wanted to buy a winery is really dig into that permit and go ahead and take that permit to Napa County before you buy it in your due diligence, and be like, I need you to tell me this permit is what your website says it is. Because that's the problem. I mean, you can hire all the experts, and the Napa County website can say one thing and all these things, but they can say, actually, no, none of that's correct. You don't have tastings anymore, and they can unilaterally do so many things. So it's just making sure your permit is solid, that Napa will agree it is what it says it is, and won't go back. Like we didn't know a municipality would do that or could do that.
Yeah.
Again, Fred's been in this business way longer than I've been alive.
I grew up in cow country in South Texas, and there's an old joke. You know how you die with 2 million being a rancher?
What?
Start off with 4.
Oh dear.
Just make really, really do your due diligence on a permit. And if you want to start a winery from scratch, I would recommend a different county. I wouldn't recommend. I don't even think I'd recommend Sonoma County. I would, go down to Paso or something and have some fun. Like those people, I have a lot of friends now in Paso, and getting permits down there are, you get those within the year. I mean, they still have steps to get them, but they're not going to drag you around for 3-4. When we're talking to Knightsbridge people this week, and it took them 14 years to get permits.
Oh, gee.
So, and that's in Sonoma.
Let's hope it doesn't take you that long.
No,
my
no.
gosh.
Again, we're just trying to. We already have a permit. They just took our tastings away. But it's
Yeah.
not worth having a winery if you can't have people come taste your wine.
Of
True.
course. Yeah. Oh, and they
So,
know that. And they know that.
Of course
well,
they do.
yeah, of course they do. That's why they did it.
Oh, it breaks my heart to hear this. And I truly hope things turn around in the permitting world for you guys and for everyone else trying
Yeah.
to do
Oh,
this. No
don't
one
make
goes
Napa
into this with,
mad because don't make them
yeah,
mad. I think
right.
I accidentally made someone upset, and you could say maybe that all hinged on that.
Wow.
I didn't mean to. The Napa County decided that they didn't, or my reviewer decided she didn't want to return 34 emails over the course of 100 days, and the equal amount of phone calls. And those emails are not just for me; it was me, my architect, my engineer. And after
Yeah.
100 days, and at 90 days, I sent her an email saying, "Hey, if I need to ask your boss for another reviewer, should I do that?" And she went 2 weeks without answering that question. So that's when I packaged everything up and sent it to her boss. But it was still a very nice email. It's like, "Hey, Brian, just not sure what to do here. Uh, I've been trying to get answers for questions so we can, continue on with our permit process. Here's everything I've asked." And then that's when the hammer came down.
Mhm. Mhm.
Was that next meeting 2 days after that email, and that's when they stripped everything from our permit. So and that's on me, I guess.
Oh,
It shouldn't be
well,
that way.
it shouldn't.
It
No.
shouldn't. Nobody should
And
ignore 34 emails in
Mhm.
100 days, and
Yeah.
that equal no. That's not being a public servant.
No, it's sure not.
No, we need to let people come taste these wines and get the wines out there.
yeah, please do.
Yeah, please do. I will personally host whoever it is. I love talking about our wines. I love pouring our wines, and and that's kind of why I got into this business anyway. And I think that's why all three of us love, want to be in this wine business. Being a landlord is not the most thankful business, as you might imagine. Nobody really likes them, but people really like wine. So,
Yeah.
hopefully we balance all of our businesses out where it's like, we never really get a note from our tenants when they're like, "Man, y'all are a great landlord. We haven't had any problems in 10 years, but man, at 10 and a half years and an AC breaks, you're going to hear about it."
Mhm.
And they're not going to be happy.
You're
But
so
we gotta,
right.
so we're on the very opposite
Well-
ends of our businesses and how people feel about people in those businesses. But man, you give some people some wine, it's all smiles and laughs, and it's
Right.
very rewarding. And Fred's been out there, and Fred's helped me host tastings for people that he's known and acquaintances. And Fred, we have fun. Like, it is a fun thing to be able to host people, pour them some wine, and it's great when they order some too. And then we can keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, we sure hope it continues to become even more rewarding, and that your permits go through very, very soon. And
It looks like it will.
And just hats off to both of you for hanging in there
Mhm.
and sticking with it, and believing in what you're doing.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, Fred and Trey Upright, thank you both for joining us today and sharing the story of Parable Wines. I'm excited for our listeners to find you as well. And your story has been fascinating. And I hope sunny skies ahead and brighter days in terms of what's coming for the winery.
It's going to be a good year.
Yeah.
Good. All
We're
right.
excited.
Well, listen, let's stay in touch. And thanks
Okay.
again for joining
Yes.
us.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Mary.
Right.
All
Thank
right.
Mary.
you. All right.
Okay.
Sip,
Sip
sip, hooray.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, we have a little update to our podcast. Since we joined the Uprights, we have some good news to share about their permitting process that they've been working so hard to get approval. And we are just delighted that we have good news to share on that front.
That's right. Napa County finally gave Parable Wines the permit that they've been seeking for years to break ground on their 8,900 square foot winery and 1,450 square foot winery tasting room on the Silverado Trail. They founded Parable in 2021, and they've been waiting patiently, anxiously for this permit to come through so they could start rebuilding. If you'll remember, Parable was a winery Dutch Henry at the time that was lost during the 2020 glass fire in Napa Valley. So we know that the uprights are super excited to get going. We're excited to see this come together. So congratulations, and we're glad that the wait is over.
Absolutely. And we love a happy ending, and we wish lots of luck to the Upright family and Parable Wines. So thank you so much for joining us for Sip Sip Hooray. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will like it and share it and comment on us, rate us, so that other people can find Sip Sip Hooray.
Right. And to find out more about Parable Wines, you can head to our website, sipsiphooray.podcast.com. We'll have show notes there. We'll also have that on our Substack. We are Sip Sip Hooray Podcast on Substack, and you can subscribe there to get an email as soon as the newest episode drops. And please be sure to subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on.
All right, Mary Orland, cheers to you.
Cheers, Mary Babbitt, and Sip Sip Hooray.
Sip Sip Hooray.